Nightwing number 29, written by Kyle Higgins, art by Russell Douterman. So, last issue we had a young girl named Jen. Her parents were killed, and then she knew that Dick was Nightwing, so she took Dick's excrement sticks and went off to hunt the killer, who turns out is Victor Zsasz. So, we go back to the night that the Flying Graysons were killed, and we see people are trying to comfort Dick in the aftermath of it, and he's just sobbing, and all the narration is just like, look, I get it, everything changed, you think it's over, and people try to comfort you, but you only want revenge. I get it. You want to hurt the person that hurts you. And we get going back to Nightwing. He's covering up his superhero gear, and he explains to his roommates yeah, Jen said she wanted to go after Zsasz or go after the person who did it, and that's when Joey's like, oh, that's Zsasz. So Dick is like, look, I'll go out, I'll see if I can track her down. You guys call the police, stay here in case Jen comes back. So I swear to you, I'll get her back. And we see a flashback to his Robin years, and he's, beating up Harley Quinn and Scarecrow and whatnot, and he's just like, yeah, it's a defense mechanism. You just want to lash out and you don't want to hurt anymore, but, eventually you settle into the new person that you become, and we see him transitioning into being Nightwing. So we go over to Zsasz, who's carving in a new tally mark on his arm, and he's like, yeah, that's a good spot for it. And then Jenny just shows up in the doorway, just like, hey, Zsasz. And we cut back to another flashback of, I'll just say it now. The flashbacks for the rest of the issue are essentially all the different arcs of Kyle Higgins' Nightwing run. So we see What's-Her-Face and What's-His-Face, the old friends from the carnival, the one who is trying to kill him. We see theoretically that he could have been a Court of Owls member in a different lifetime. We see him taking over Haley's circus and death of the family happening. And actually, that might be it for flashbacks. But all the stuff inside is saying, you look back, you start to think about, who you've become after a tragedy like that, and you think about who you could have been, but you always swear that you're going to do better. You're always going to be a better person than you previously were. So, back to the Zsasz thing. She charges him. He just slaps her across the face and says, I've got plenty of room for another tally, so let's go ahead. And Jenny's clearly not in the better place here, but as he's about to go after her, Nightwing busts in through the window and just does a double handstand, gets punched in the face by Zsasz enough to be on the ropes for a second until he's eventually able to get up, kicks him in the face, and he's out. And we see that all the narration here of him saying, be a better person, all that stuff, he's talking to Jenny after the fact on a rooftop and basically saying, look, I'm not going to say things are, going to get better. It's going to be hard. It's going to be really hard sometimes. There's going to be times where, you think of something funny and you want to call your mom, but, she's not there anymore. And that's going to happen. But you'll also occasionally think of something that reminds you of your parents, and it'll eventually bring you with, some sort of peace and happiness or whatnot. And he reaches into his pocket and pulls out a bracelet. And he says, I gave this to my mom the night she died. I want you to hold on to it for me. And it's just a reminder that no matter what, things will get better and I will always be here for you. If you ever need anything, you can always call me. And she basically says, okay, she's tearing up. And she says, okay, I'm going to go downstairs. I'm going to talk to Joey and stuff before I have to go to my aunt's house, because that's who's taking me in now. And as she walks away, she tells Dick, your mom and dad would be proud of you. And he says, yeah, I'd like to think they would. So Dick's just yeah, you got to focus on the positive. You got to try to move forward. He pulls out his phone and he sends a message to Sonia and basically says, hey, I'm going to be in Gotham. Would you like to meet up for dinner sometime? And she smiles down at the phone. And he's just yeah, well, I've life hasn't always been easy, but it's not about cities or symbols. It's simpler than that. It's always been about catching people when they fall. And that's it. That is Kyle Higgins' run on Nightwing. Next issue is going to be Tim Seeley and Tom King as a prelude to Grayson. So just going to get the transition point there. But yeah, no, I think this was a nice little capper. It gave a little closure to the run. It went through a flashback of like, here's all of our greatest hits and whatnot. And it also did a good job of setting up, okay, here's like a proto person, and Dick manages to not only, I wouldn't say heal her, but like get her off the revenge plot without her having to become a vigilante, you know? Manages to convince her there is another path that you can take. You don't have to follow in my footsteps. So, yeah. No, I enjoyed it. I think it was a solid issue. I'd say it's probably just I want to say 7. And the only reason I'm not saying 7.5 is that it kind of felt empty. Like, don't get me wrong, there was a lot of internal monologue going on there, but there's also like several pages where there's maybe like 2 or 3 speech bubbles and internal monologue box. It just, I don't dislike the fact that it's quiet, but it definitely feels like not a lot was in this issue. Like even just the pacing wise, it was very fast paced. So yeah, I'm going to say 7 for this, but solid ending to a solid run. Definitely enjoyed Nightwing pretty much the whole way through.